Are you thinking about moving to West Palm Beach, Florida? Well, let's talk about what it actually costs to live here. And I'm not just talking about home prices, but what it actually costs to own a home, including property taxes and insurance, along with everything else that affects your wallet, like utilities, groceries, dining out, and possibly living a boating lifestyle. The cost of one of these may really take you by surprise. So if you're trying to figure out whether West Palm Beach is the right fit for your lifestyle and your wallet, well, stand by. This video is for you. Okay, so like I said, there's more to the cost of owning a home in Florida, as is anywhere, than just buying the home. But I wanted to just start, usually I start with the niche rating when I'm talking about a town, but in this case, I'm going to start with stat graphic statistics we're just talking about West Palm Beach, but I'll broaden that a little bit later as we're talking. So if you look at this first chart, just to give you an idea, these are single family homes in West Palm Beach with the median sale price of $627,000 and the average sale price of $1.1 million. And most people like to look at the median, but I'm actually more inclined to focus on the average sales price here because if you're talking about, now I'm just show you a map. These are all of the active listings in West Palm Beach right now, between $500,000 and $1.5 million, which there are plenty more that are over $1.5 million. And this is usually what I do when I'm working with clients, is to start with this an even more broad net and show them, what the price points are like around the city or whatever town it is they're interested in. But this just makes the point. Here's the city of West Palm Beach. All these green dots are the single family homes that are for sale. There's 354 of them, and you can see how many are out west here. This is actually, a lot of these are unincorporated Palm Beach County, which fall into the bucket when I search of West Palm Beach. So you can see here that if you're going to be in West Palm Beach proper, really, here's Flagler Drive, and these are all the homes that really are mostly around the city of West Palm Beach, if that's what you're thinking about. So you've got Northwood up here. You can see one of my videos that I did on the top 5 neighborhoods in West Palm, and those would be all like in this area. But these, there's lower price points out here and high price points, but lower ones typically out here because you're west and away from the water. But that's just to give you an idea of the price ranges. And then I'm going to show you the same thing for condos, because some people are interested in condos. So these are I went a little lower here to give you a feel, but these are all the condos that are currently for sale in West Palm Beach. And you can see most of them are focused here in the heart of West Palm. A few are over here in Palm Beach. There's 402 condos for sale right now. And then you can see that a good number of them are out west, but mostly here in downtown. And the stats on that, the average sales price is around $500,000, $449,000. And median percent of original list price, this is kind of interesting, is 91, whereas with single family homes, it's 93. So that's just to give you a feel, of the average sales price between single family homes and condos. But I don't mean to get so granular. But what I really wanted to talk about here was, I had said about property taxes and insurance. And these are the two shockers, I think, sometimes for people. So I'm just going to give you an example here. For instance, this is an insurance agent that I use quite a bit. I use them for my own insurance. And this is a quote on a single family home that was for sale in Northwood, which is that up here, this part of West Palm Beach. I feature it both as its own neighborhood in my videos, but also in the top 5 neighborhoods in West Palm. So that's just to give you an idea. And this particular home was just off of Flagler Drive. The price point was $1.5 million for sale. So this quote is for the dwelling, personal property, and windstorm, hurricane insurance. And the quote is $10,000 a year, which I think is about, that was a little bit low actually. And this particular house was a 1950s home I featured it in another video when I did the Northwood video, and it was kind of a mid-century modern, built in the 50s, so that might have disqualified it even from getting insurance, which is the challenge right now. But in this case, the home had impact windows, the home had a roof that was just a few years old, and those are really important criteria when you're getting your insurance, because if you do have a mortgage, you have to have regular homeowners insurance, windstorm, and if you're in a flood zone, you also have to have flood insurance. So this is the issue with people moving here. One of the two is the whole cost of insurance and how it works here as compared to other areas that don't experience hurricanes. So that's an example of insurance on a single family home. And now I'm going to show you, I say to people, these newer luxury condos, cost of condo fees monthly run in the area of $2.20 a foot, which can be $10,000 a month in some instances. And it's kind of shocking, but that's not always the case. Like if you're buying $1 million condo, then it's quite a bit different. But in this case, I thought this was interesting, and I'm just going to show it. This is a project that's going up a Ritz-Carlton residences, which I featured in my Palm Beach Gardens video. And it's right on the corner of the Intercoastal at PGA Boulevard. And I thought this was just an illustration, but they do like a column here for the cost, 4,000 square foot home in a gated community as a comparison to a unit in this building. And when you have condo dues, they cover everything from the walls out. So the roof, they don't cover windows, they don't cover doors, they don't cover roofs. But when you're, like, say if you have a townhouse or a single family home in a condo development. But in this case, the bottom line is that they use the example that the single family home monthly expenses in a gated community, a 4,000 square foot home, could be $8,000 a month. Whereas this particular project, if you're buying a $4 to $5 million unit, your homeowner's dues would be $5,600 a month. So that's a good illustration of what those costs can be like. And then finally, since those two examples that I just gave you, that example that I just gave you for the Ritz-Carlton is more of a luxury price point, here's another example of a quarterly condo dues in a townhouse in North Palm Beach that the community is on the water and there's a marina. And you'll see here $5,800 a quarter. So you're talking about $2,000 a month for a 2,400 square foot townhouse that's right across the street from the marina, and a 50-foot boat slip with a lift. And the boat slip fees are very reasonable, although in this case, there's some work that's needing to be done and some assessments that are coming in the marina. But this just gives you an idea of what your condo dues can be like, in addition to the cost of buying a condo or a townhouse that's in a condo community, or even when they say HOA, some of these communities are homeowners associations, which have fewer rules than a condo, different type of legal structure. But you still, some of these HOAs take responsibility for the roofs and other exterior aspects of the development that cause the HOA dues not to be comparable to some other communities. So you really have to do your homework. Once you've honed in on a property that you're interested in, then you need to look more closely at the details of the expenses. So that is just an example of how the expenses can vary outside of just the purchase price of a home or condominium, and how important it is to understand what expenses are included in your condo or HOA dues, so that you really have a full picture of how this is going to impact your wallet. And then the only other thing I wanted to show you was property taxes. So stand by on that. I'm just going to show you this. I took this screenshot from the other day. Governor DeSantis proposes eliminating property taxes. Wouldn't that be nice? But it is interesting to hear that the Florida legislature is looking at ways to reduce property taxes, which I'm going to just show you a few examples and you'll understand what I'm talking about. I'm going to give you 3 examples of property taxes in Florida. And the one thing I want to say is that we have a homestead exemption here. If you claim your residency in Florida, then you can have a homestead exemption, which right now is kind of a nominal number. but it also allows you to take advantage of the Save Our Homes Act, which limits the increases in the assessed value to the CPI or 3% per year. So you can achieve a lot of tax savings by being a resident of the state of Florida, because if you're not, then your assessed value of your home can fluctuate with market values and you can experience much higher property taxes over time. And the other good thing about having your homestead exemption is that they have something called portability, where you can transfer those savings that you've accumulated over time on your home that is your homestead. And if you decide to buy another house somewhere else in the state, you can actually transport those savings to that new home. So those are both really positive advantages. And one other thing I will say is a lot of people think that the state of Florida cares how long you're here before you can declare your residency. And that isn't the case. Because we don't have income taxes, the state of Florida doesn't care how long you're here. They only care that you declare your residency here by having an address, whether it's a leased property or you own a home. You get a Florida driver's license and you register to vote. And that would allow you to be a resident. I'm pretty sure those are all the rules. A resident of Florida. If you're coming from a state that has income taxes, that state most likely, like New York, other states in the Northeast, are going to, I guess they have auditors that follow you to see if you're in that state for more than 6 months, then they can get their income tax. So all these things you have to consult your advisor. But I just wanted to make the point about the homestead allowing you to limit the increases in your assessed value, as well as allow you to use portability if you decide to buy a different home in Florida after you've purchased your initial home. And then just really quickly, I'm going to just show you 3 examples of a tax situation. So in this case, this is a home, one of the ones I've talked about before. It's in Northwood in West Palm Beach. And the person that purchased this home, someone had a homestead on the property, sued back in 2022. They bought it in 2023. The new taxable value became $1,057,000 and their taxes increased to $22,000. Now, this isn't the perfect example because actually the assessed value went down on this property, but since they don't have the homestead exemption, as this property value increases in the future, then their taxes also will increase. But you can see this increase where it went from $6,000 to $22,000. So a lot of people are looking at properties and they're looking at the existing taxes on the property, and that is not going to be true for you when you purchase it. And then here's an example of that. This is a property in Prospect Park, just south of downtown, one of the 5 neighborhoods that I featured. And this home, someone had owned this property for like 20 years. They had a homestead exemption. So as you can see, the taxable value on the home was very low, $197,000. But the home was on the market for $1.3 million, which is what it sold for. And it ended up that the taxable value, the assessment, according to the property appraiser, was $1,087,000. So these taxes went from $4,800 to $22,000. And this is pretty true across the board. They estimate that even though millage rates vary from city to city in Palm Beach County, you can typically expect your taxes to be $20,000 per million. So that is practically true here. And then this family declared their residency, but it does take 1 year for it to process. So they had to pay this $22,000, and now they've locked in their taxable value with their homestead, and this will only increase per the changes in the assessment up to 3% per year. But I just wanted to make the point because clients that I work with that move here from other states that don't have these kinds of homestead exemptions and other tax savings don't know what to expect. And a lot of times they'll go in the property appraiser and look at that tax amount that some current homeowner has been paying and think that that is going to be their tax. So for this category, those are my 2 main things. Besides just looking at the price of a home in a neighborhood that you think is right for you, you really need to evaluate what your insurance will be. And that has a number of different variables that you have to think about. And then also your property taxes, whether you're going to be declaring your residency here and taking advantage of the homestead benefits or not. And then you will be able to expect what your property taxes will be going forward. So I hope that was helpful. So I'm going to take a minute to introduce myself if you don't already know. My name is Diane Wimbrow, and I am a lifelong South Floridian and realtor here in Palm Beach County. And I just love getting calls and texts from people who are thinking about moving to South Florida and they just don't know where to start. So if this sounds like you, and if you want a custom breakdown based on your price range or lifestyle, feel free to give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email, and I'd be happy to help you with that. So don't forget to like and subscribe so that you'll know every time we have new videos, and we'll get back to talking about the cost of living in South Florida. So another category I chose was a boating lifestyle, because a lot of people move here. Maybe people move out in the Western communities and are not really interested in the water life, but we are a coastal community. We have a really nice, wide, beautiful waterway. Sometimes I feel like I'm repeating myself when it comes to me talking about the water, but especially here in West Palm Beach, you have, if you can see here, here's the end of West Palm, and here's the north end of West Palm. And this is Lake Worth here. And it is the Intracoastal, but as you can see how wide it is, it was a natural lake at one time. And so it does offer, like up here by North Palm, here's MacArthur Park. There's just a lot of water to enjoy. And then you have the Palm Beach Inlet here, which is the best inlet probably in the county. And then you're out in the ocean, you're in the Bahamas in no time. So people really do like to have their boats, and they like to fish, they like to dive, they like to just go out for fun on the weekends. You can go to Peanut Island, which is just crazy, actually. I don't do that much anymore, but a lot of people really enjoy it. It's better when it's not the weekend. But here's Peanut Island, and it has sandbars when it's low tide, and then it's a park, and you can bring your dog, and it's really awesome. So I say all this because when I talk to prospective clients, or I'm helping somebody move here, they want to have a boat, but they don't realize what it entails, which I think is different here than anywhere else. So the bottom line is, if you want to have the perfect world is having your boat behind your house on a canal where you can just, the big thing is talking about no fixed bridges. So depending on if you have a larger boat, like a sport fishing boat or a yacht, versus having a center console, there's a lot of drawbridges. The 3 bridges that go over to Palm Beach are drawbridges. The bridge that goes over to Singer Island right by the Lake Worth Inlet is a fixed bridge, and it's very tall. So all the sport fishing boats, the yachts can get under there. So if your house is up north more in Palm Beach Gardens or North Palm Beach, or even north of there, Jupiter has its own inlet, which is a little bit more challenging navigation wise. But the bottom line is you're going to have to pay more than $1 million to have your boat in your backyard behind your house. And depending upon what town you choose, it could be, or what development, it could be much more than that. So, the perfect world is to have your boat behind your house and you can just go out and hop in. But that's not always the case, that you can afford a home where you can have that. And the next best thing is to be in a development that's along the Intracoastal or on a canal that has boat slips or a marina. And so therefore you either buy the slip, or the slip comes with your condo or your villa or your home, and then you pay some amount of dockage fees to have the boat in the marina. So real life example, I live in a community called 12 Oaks. We live in a townhouse, but there's also condos in this development and villas, and there's a marina with 70 boat slips. And so either you buy your unit and it has a slip, or you buy a slip from someone else. So in that case, you're paying probably, when you're in a community like this, at least $100,000 or more for the slip. And then you're paying some amount for the dues, which normally isn't that much. Ours are around $900 a quarter. And then we bought the slip with our house. And anything that has that kind of arrangement is becoming more and more attractive. There are places where you can actually buy a boat slip where it's not where you live. So for instance, you can see some pictures here of Sauverel Marina. They have boat slips there that you can buy. I don't know how much they are. I mean, the prices, it's kind of like they don't get recorded, so you don't really know what the actual prices are, but you're paying $150,000, $200,000, $250,000 for a boat slip, say a 50-foot or more boat slip, say in Sauverel in Palm Beach Gardens, or the Jupiter Yacht Club along US 1 in Jupiter, or the Bluffs Marina has slips that you can buy. So you have your boat behind your house, you live in a development that has a marina, you buy a slip somewhere, or the last three things really are, or if you have a smaller boat like a center console, there are sheds, boat storage where they take your boat out of the shed on a forklift and put it in the water when you call in. And those same places, they're in Jupiter, they're in Palm Beach Gardens. There's a beautiful new one called Pier 32 that's at the Sauverel Marina, and they're building a brand new, beautiful facility there. There's a loggerhead at Blue Heron in West Palm. So there's all these different boat storage facilities, and you pay so much a foot for that. And it's, kind of all over the place. And then the last two things are, depending on the size of your boat, you keep your boat in an actual marina, and then you pay a price per foot. So some of the marinas, like Marina Downtown, there's a marina right there where you can keep your boat. There's a marina in Palm Beach, and there's a marina, Sailfish Marina, on Singer Island in Palm Beach Shores. There's the North Palm Beach Marina. So there's marinas all along the waterway, and usually during season they're like filled, and people will bring their boats down here in the winter, and then they have to get them out of here in the summer for insurance reasons because of hurricanes. And so if you live here all year round, a lot of times you can get a deal in the summertime to have your boat at one of these marinas. So, and there are private communities like Admiral's Cove and in Jupiter and Jonathan's Landing that have marinas inside the development when you have a single family home, and they can accommodate larger boats. But the bottom line is there's lots of options, but there are also a lot of people that like to have boats. And so if you're thinking about having that boating lifestyle and buying a house down here, that's another angle that you have to kind of work on, in addition to like the insurance and understanding the taxes, and my husband's a yacht broker and a professional captain, and he's helping people all the time. He has great contacts. So do a lot of other people. And you really need that to find the perfect setup for you and your boat. So that's all about the boating lifestyle and the different options for storing your boat. So another category of expenses which could surprise you in a good way and in a not so good way. So transportation. So first I'll just say that car insurance in West Palm Beach and in South Florida in general, this is crazy to think, but it's the highest in the country. And as you can see from this article I'm showing you from the Palm Beach Post, a lot of that is attributable, especially in West Palm Beach and the Palm Beach County area, to the number of uninsured motorists. I don't know what the state's doing about that, but we do have very high car insurance rates. I would show you mine, but we have two older cars and it tends to be a little lower. But, depending on your age, depending upon the type of car you're driving, regardless, relatively speaking, you're going to experience probably higher car insurance in Palm Beach County than you do wherever you're moving from. And then the other thing is gas. I think our gas is pretty reasonable. You can see I went to a couple of gas stations that we like to use. My husband will drive like an extra 2 miles to save 10 cents a gallon. And he always makes fun of me because I don't even look at the price, because to me, it's all the same pretty much everywhere. But it's probably around, for a cash, regular gas is like $3.25. And usually it's like $1 more a gallon for premium, which is what I have to put in my car. So it is lower than it has been. We've seen it, very high at times over the last couple of years, but that's what our gas prices look like. And then, so when you live in West Palm Beach, there's something called the Circuit Shuttle. And it's, as you can see here, this is the island of Palm Beach, and this is the city of West Palm Beach. It's this little shuttle transportation that can take you in this whole zone, anywhere in here on a route. You cost nothing. So you can, if you live downtown here in a condo, you can catch this little circuit vehicle and it'll take you anywhere in West Palm and for a nominal fare out to over the bridge to Palm Beach. So the other thing that we do have public transportation. It might not be what you expect from larger cities that you might be moving from, but we do have the Tri-Rail, which runs from Mangonia Park just north of West Palm. There's a station right in West Palm at Okeechobee Boulevard and Parker Avenue, just east of I-95. The Tri-Rail station is this is Okeechobee coming off of I-95, and let me just zoom in a little. Here's City Place, and here's the Kravis Center, and the Tri-Rail station is right here. So you can take the Tri-Rail from West Palm all the way to Miami, and the fares are nominal. The only downside of it is that you can go all the way to Miami from West Palm, and it's a local train, so it stops like everywhere along the way. And they used to use it like to go to the airport if you needed to go to Fort Lauderdale or Miami instead for a flight. But what we have now is we have Brightline, which is the high-speed rail. And so those rates are quite a bit more than Tri-Rail. Obviously, I think the rates range from like $60 to up to $250. It just depends on what time of day you're going, if you're going on the weekend, and where you're going, obviously. But it runs from Miami through Fort Lauderdale, West Palm, and goes all the way to Orlando now. And I think they're going to do an extension to Tampa. So that is really good. People use it. And because we have terrible in-state flights, like it's almost virtually impossible to fly around Florida, except for maybe on Southwest. You have to actually like go to Atlanta to come back to Florida or Charlotte or something. So the Brightline has really filled a need there. And then the only other thing I'll tell you about is we really have two main expressways, which it's about it. And they're the I-95, which runs more to the east, except when you're up here near Jupiter. 95 and the Turnpike kind of merge for 4 or 5 miles. But as you can see here, here's the Florida Turnpike. That's a toll road. That'll take you straight to the Keys. And 95 goes along the eastern corridor of the counties going all the way down to Miami. It ends down at the end of Miami. And the Florida Turnpike is a toll road. I-95 is not. But I-95 does have the express lanes, and everyone pretty much has a SunPass, it's called. So these are the rates. They're really nominal. It's pretty much all automated now, so there aren't like the Turnpike used to have where you had those people in the booth collecting your tolls, but now everything's automated. You can use your SunPass all around Florida. You can use your SunPass to take the express lane on I-95. So it does really help keep the traffic flowing. And then the last thing I'll say is that we have a super conveniently located, don't tell anyone, airport. Here's Palm Beach International, here's I-95, here's downtown West Palm and Palm Beach. So even if you're all the way up in Jupiter or down in like Delray, Palm Beach International is a great, convenient, and for now it's a very small airport. It's wonderful. But the problem is that during season, they do have a lot of good flights. But off season, when half of our population goes away, the flights are less. And so a lot of times, like if we're having to take an international flight or fly somewhere, we would rather go direct. We have to go to Fort Lauderdale or to Miami. And typically we'd take an Uber. And that's about like to Fort Lauderdale, it's like $100. And to Miami, it's probably $200. So that's about our car costs, gas, transportation for living in West Palm Beach. Okay, so how about groceries and dining out? So on the grocery front, I'm kind of one of those people, I'm guilty, because I talk to people and I say, I don't know how much eggs cost, or I don't know how much half and half costs, or whatever, because I have to buy what I have to buy, and I shop like normally at Publix is our main grocery store, so they are really good at having, even though their prices, I think some people, they are more expensive. Like if you can go to Trader Joe's, you can get better prices at Trader Joe's comparably than to Publix. But at the same time, I can't get everything I need at Trader Joe's, and at Publix, I can get most everything I need. The same is true for Whole Foods. I might go there for specialty items, but I don't do all my shopping there because generally they're more expensive. So, I'll show you these prices on like berries and especially like what I notice is I prefer to use the organics. So I use organic berries, I use organic half and half, I use organic bacon, I use free range eggs. And so all of these are in the higher price categories. As you can see, the berries here, they usually have buy one, get one things going on. Most of the time I notice for berries and for bacon and the egg prices at Publix, they're all over the board, but on the low end, you can see a regular white, I call them tortured eggs, are in that low price now of like, $3 to $4. But if you want an organic or free range egg, you're still paying $8 or $9 a dozen. And I saw that to be true pretty much across the board, except for at Trader Joe's, their prices are always the best. So their tortured eggs are $2.99 and their organic eggs were $5.50. So they were less. And then I noticed that Whole Foods were kind of the same as Publix. So overall groceries, I mean, it's been painful to go to the grocery store and it's been this way for a couple of years now. It's just my husband and myself. So my typical go to the grocery store and provision all my standard stuff used to be like $100 every 5 or 6 days. So it doesn't sound like much, but I'm not big at cooking. And then it's like gone as high as $150 for the same items. And that's not including like wine or beer or things like that because we really don't drink. So it's mostly food products. So I think that I see the price of eggs coming down. I see, the bacon coming down. I see the half and half being less expensive. So in general, I don't know that you could look at these prices and see if they're dramatically different where you're coming from. But those are just some anecdotal examples. And then the other thing that I will say is dining out. Like I'm going to show you here some of my favorite restaurants downtown, like Avocado Grill. And then you can see the menu here. And I also love Pistache, is a great little French bistro. Elisabetta's is right on the waterway, and they've just added a rooftop restaurant. And that's kind of an Italian, really good Italian food with a great location. And then right across the bridge in Palm Beach, two of the standbys are, old standbys are the Palm Beach Grill, which is right at the North Bridge. It's in the Royal Poinciana Plaza, and it's been there forever. And it's not cheap, but it's not the most expensive restaurant for sure in Palm Beach. And then 2 doors down, which is owned also by the Palm Beach Grill, which is a Houston's in disguise, is the Honor Bar. But the bottom line on all this is that it's expensive to eat out. And I think that I say if I go to the local place that we like to go, that's kind of where they do their own brewing nearby where we live, my husband and I joke, it's like, even when you're going casual and just going out for a quick bite or to take takeout, when there's 2 people, maybe you have a glass of wine, it's never less than $100. And when it comes to West Palm, there's tons of great restaurants, and in Palm Beach as well. But I really think that they have resort prices these days, or we call them New York prices, because it's hard to eat out reasonably well-prepared food, and we don't do the chains or the fast food restaurants. So, it's hard to eat out for less than $50 or $60, and that's without even having a tab for a beer or a drink. So I don't know how that compares to where you are. I think if you're in a smaller town, you probably have more local joints that aren't as fancy or whatever, but the resort prices have arrived, and the New York prices, I think that's like people come down from Manhattan, or New York, and they're used to paying the types of prices that they pay there, and ours I think are approaching them. So that's just my 2 cents on groceries and dining out. So this is just a quickie, but I'm going to call this utilities. But I don't know. I think we have a lot more like fixed monthly expenses sometimes than other areas. So if you're living in a single family home and you have a pool, you have a yard, the things that you can expect to pay, like, first of all, electric bills. I hear people talk about having really high electric bills, but I have read that the unit price of electricity in South Florida is much lower than in other areas, but I will tell you, I have a 2-zone air conditioning, 2,600 square foot house. Here's my bill. I use the FPL smoothing tool that they smooth it out over the years, so you always have the same bill is always about the same. And mine's only $200 a month. So I don't know how people get $400 and $500 electric bills. When I lived in my other house before I moved here, I had a pool as well with an electric pump, and it was always the same price. So I think our electricity costs are lower than most other places. But things that you do have, if you have, besides your HOA dues, if you're an HOA or condo fees, which cover all your outside services. But if you've got a single family home and a pool, you're going to be paying at least $150 a month for your pool service, at least $150 a month, maybe more for your landscaping, maintenance, and fertilizing and all that kind of stuff. And then, we've got a lot of pests here. You can see it in my pros and cons. A lot of people have to have a pest service. That could be $100 a month. Sometimes you have to have that same service to spray your yard. I think people are sort of getting away from that. I mean, we do have like a mosquito problem here and bugs. And they have this company called Gorillas in the Mist. It's in Jupiter, and I see their trucks all over now. And so they set up these deterrent systems for mosquitoes, which I was also almost tempted to do it, but at my other house, but I was just like, I couldn't take one more thing. I never did it. And then also water is something to think about, because some people have wells here. Our water table is not very deep in the ground. And usually you can tell when they have a well system because they've got rust on the side of their house. That's something to look for when you're looking at houses. We have dry seasons from early spring through summer. So you have to do watering. You have to run your sprinklers at least twice a week. And if you don't have a well, then you are paying for city water to water your outside, which you're paying sewer and all that stuff for that water that's just going in the ground. So some people have really high water bills. At my house, where I had like yards all the way around, I think my water bill was a couple $100 a month. Where I am now, we have a well irrigation system. So my water is just my use like at the hose and inside the house. And so it's always like under $100. So I think those are the kind of the overhead that you can expect monthly, and you just kind of can't get around it. I mean, some people like to cut their grass. I believe in not owning a lawnmower. And some people take care of their pool, but then you got to worry about the chemicals, and the summertime, it's a different thing. So anyway, those are the expenses that you can expect when you own a home here in South Florida. So thanks for watching. I hope I didn't scare you off with this video. But I think it's really important to understand the costs of living in South Florida. And I mean, in my opinion, I think about sometimes when we think about our retirement, living somewhere else, but we really love it here. And I really think there is a balance to it. And most things outweigh other things, or there is a way to make it work. So I hope this was helpful. And if you'd like to leave your thoughts or comments in the comment section below, I love to get them and I love to answer them. And if you want to give me a call, shoot me a text, or send me an email, I'd be happy to chat or set up a Zoom call to see if I can help you find the perfect place for you here in South Florida. And if you want to know more about the pros and cons of living in West Palm Beach, click this video right here.